Take 32. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's talk about gauging your needle. First, the Cameo needle. The Cameo has these numbers on the handle, and this is the way you gauge or adjust your loop length. Gauging your needle means adjusting your loop length. So what you want to do is, for one, I wanted to mention that there's an extra notch here on the Cameo needle, which brings your needle all the way in and protects your needle. But for now, let's go to number 2. And I believe most people punch on a number 2, on the number 2. Now the number 2 on the Cameo needle, the setting is a 1/2 inch, which means, get my ruler, 1/2 inch, meaning that from the end of your handle or the plastic to the tip, the very tip of your needle, that measures a 1/2 inch. Measures a 1/2 inch from the very end to the tip of your needle, or 13 millimeters. Okay, so let's check out what halfway. These range from 1 to 12. So let's go halfway. Let's see what halfway is. Okay, and number 6, we're set up here. And it is 3/4 of an inch, or 19 millimeters. All right, let's go to the 12. Wow, that's long. I never punched that long. I don't think I've ever punched that long. I'm going to have to try that, see what it's like. But let's see. 12 is, let's see. Yeah, 1 2/16, or millimeters, 29 millimeters. So that's the Cameo. And again, to store it, if you bring that all the way down into this notch, now this one takes you out, your handle will actually come out of there, but you just turn this little end and bring it down, and that's a nice way to store your needle out of harm's way so it doesn't get damaged. So that's the Cameo. Alrighty, let's move on to the CTR. The CTR has this vinyl tubing on it. Now this is what you use to gauge your needle. Now this tubing, when you first get it, it has a couple sections. See, there's 1, 2, let's see. Now this is one solid. So if you want to cut another section, take this off and cut it where you would like it. Now when you measure for the CTR needle, you want to measure from the end of this gauge right here to the very tip of your needle. Now I like mine set at 7/16 of an inch, or 11 millimeters. So if you measure, when you measure this, you're going to measure from the end of the gauge to the tip of your needle, and that is 7/16, or 11 millimeters. This, you see this funny thing right here? When I first started, I had no clue that there was even this gauge material available, but they do sell the gauge material with 5 threaders in it, and it has all the gauge material for all the needles and 5 threaders, and it is available in my Etsy store. So if you need that, or you lose a piece of the gauge, or you need extra threaders, that's available. There's also a tube with just threaders and no gauge material. But back to the gauging. So my setting, again, I like it at 7/16 of an inch, which is 11 millimeters. Now for line work or punching a single branch or highlight on an eye, I like to remove this first piece of gauge. Now when I remove this, we're now down to, and set it somewhere safe. Don't put it on here because it'll bounce around and you'll lose it. But maybe a little dish, see, like this, but not with the candy in it. Okay. But put it somewhere safe. You don't want to lose it because you're going to put it back on. But when I remove this, my needle is now a 1/2 inch. See, a 1/2 inch, and or 13 millimeters. And like I said, I use that for detail work. Now that makes your loop just a little bit, a titch longer. So when you are punching, that line work or detail work or a highlight in an eye will stand up just a tiny bit above the rest of your punch. And it makes a big difference to make that stand out. So that's what I do, or you can practice that. That's really advanced punching, but wouldn't be a bad idea to get used to doing that from the very beginning. So I'm going to put this back to the 7/16 of an inch so I don't forget or lose that little piece of gauge. All the CTR needles. This is a 3-strand CTR needle. This is a 1-strand CTR needle. And this is a 6-strand CTR needle. Now your 3-strand CTR needle will punch 2-3 strands. Your 1-strand only punches 1 single strand of DMC. Nothing else will fit in this. And your 6-strand, you can punch 4, 5, and 6 strands. So that's good to know. Okie doke. Well, as far as storage, they're all sold in a tube. It has a little piece of tubing in there. And what I do is I just open it and keep that tubing on the inside and just put my needle on the inside. And that's how I store the CTR needles. You can gauge that needle exactly where you want it by adding or removing the gauging material. With a Cameo, you're kind of set to the different numbers, the 1, 2, 3 through 12. So again, another reason why you just get much more variety, much more versatility with the CTR needle. Okie doke, I think I covered everything on gauging. So let's move on. I wanted to show you different problems that could arise before you start punching. So if you do have a problem at the very beginning, you don't get frustrated. A lot of people get frustrated. Now, you will have some problems. Most people don't start out punching as an expert. But to be honest, it truly does not take too long of a time to pick up a rhythm and figure out the problems. And hopefully, with my videos, it will move you along a little smoother. So let's get going. First of all, you want to make sure that this ending floss is totally clear. I run my finger through it quickly to make sure there's no knots or gnarls. And you want it up and out of your way. You want to make sure that that is totally clear. And you're good to go. So keep that away from your hand and out of the way of your punching site. So here we go. So we're punching along, and let's see. First problem you could have. You could be grabbing that thread against your needle, which happens a lot. So you could be punching along and you switch your position, and all of a sudden it's not going anywhere. You're getting this weird tearing noise, and it's because you have that thread trapped. You're not going to get any loops unless that thread is totally clear. So make sure that isn't one of the problems. Another problem you could have is not threading your needle correctly. If you forget and you thread your needle, and you forget to thread your eye, you're not going to get any loops. Also, if you put it in backwards, you're not going to get any loops because you have now created a knot on the end of your needle. So you want to make sure that you go into the proper side. A Cameo needle is opposite. The Cameo has a beveled side. Can you see that? And it has a non-beveled side. With a Cameo, you want that thread on both needles coming out of the non-beveled side. With the CTR, you're going to go through the beveled side and pull it through. So check that. That's important. It won't work unless your little tail on the Cameo or the CTR is coming out the non-beveled side. When you punch for the first time, pull that thread. Make sure that's coming out of there smooth. If that's not pulling smoothly through either one of those needles, you could have a burr on the eye of the needle. You could have a burr on the inside of your tube. That should be perfectly smooth. You should not feel anything on the inside of there. If you do, it's probably catching up on the inside and you're going to have a problem. So you can pull that back and forth and you're not going to have a problem with it. So give that a shot. All right, another problem could be that you have a kink in your thread. Let's kink the thread. Okay, ready? Let's go. Okay, it's straightened out. How to create a problem punching. All right, let's put a little twist in here. All right, there we go. All right, it's straightened out again. Okay, so we're punching, and you hit a kink, which it's not doing. All right, let's try something else here. But one of these threads could actually be, I'm going to make sure we get a kink. One of these threads could actually be kinked or looped around itself. Let's create a problem. Okay, that's definitely going to get stuck. All right, let's try this again. So it's all gnarled up over here, as you can you see? And we're gonna punch along. Okay, now we didn't see that kink. All of a sudden it quit punching. It stopped. I can't go anywhere. And that's because it's caught on the inside tube. So, and you can hear it. It sounds like it's tearing. So that's another problem. So what you have to do is you have to take that kink out of there. Okay, easier said than done. Usually you can just pull that, but I guess I got it taut in there. Okay. Alrighty, let's try this again. And another problem that won't let you go is a knot. If you have any kind of knot or any kind of obstruction in your thread, you are not going to be able to punch. It's going to stop you dead in your tracks. So let's try this now. Again, that tearing noise started. So that knot has obstructed my tube. And don't try and pull it from this end. If you feel anything funny or you're not sure about your threads, always pull from this end. But say you pulled out and you're yanking and it just won't go through. And it gets stuck on the inside of that tube. Just take your threader and feed that up through your tube. Don't keep yanking it. You're going to get it stuck in there or damage your needle. That should clear your thread unless you've really got it jammed up in there. Okay. So check your thread. Make sure if you feel something in there or a little glitch in there, there's a knot. Don't use it or cut it out. So I'm going to cut right where that knot is. And if you want, save, clear that knot and save this end and restart punching with it. All right. So that's just a few problems that you can have with your needle. And believe me, you can feel it. It doesn't feel right. It's just not going smoothly. When you get the idea of when it's smooth, you're going to know exactly when you get a knot or a kink in that thread. And everybody does. It doesn't matter who you are. Sometimes the threads even come with knots already in them. So don't worry about it. Rethread your needle and start over. It's all part of punching. What could another problem be? This? If you punch down and when you lift up, you need to just slightly drag your needle across that fabric. You do not want to lift it up. If you lift it up far and come back down again, you stand the chance of pulling your loops out on the other side. Plus, you just don't want all these loopies on this side of the fabric. Punch needle, you are actually working on the reverse side. So your finished pattern will be underneath here. So this side, those just should be tiny little loops right snug up to the fabric. So drag, drag, drag your needle. Don't pick it up off the fabric. Drag it. Punch, drag, punch, drag, punch, drag, punch, drag, punch. Punch, drag, punch. Okay. So let's say I'm all done with that section. The other important thing to have is a sharp pair of scissors. If you want to be able to snip that clean, right down, you lay it right on top of your punch and you snip it. Don't tilt it flat, snip it. If you do not have a sharp pair of scissors and you try and snip that, as you get going, you're not even going to think about it. You're going to pull that thread right out of there. So you really have to have a sharp pair of scissors. Doesn't have to be expensive embroidery scissors. It can be, these are what? These are Westcott scissors. Just as long as they're sharp, they have to be sharp. So get yourself a sharp pair of scissors to begin also, and it'll make your life or your punch so much easier. So there is some of the problems that can occur with punch needle, and most of the times those are the things that are wrong. So if it doesn't feel right from the beginning, please check it. Make sure, check your thread, check the way your needle is threaded, and make sure that your hand or your fingers are not pinching the long side of your punch needle. Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for stopping, and you have a great day. Okay, enough of the basics. Join me for my next video where we get to the punching.